currently standing on a Division I baseball field. If you ever end up playing baseball in college at the Division I level, this is what you can expect at one of their practices. First of all, players are expected to show up to the field 30 minutes, 45 minutes before practice even starts to help set up the field and get everything in order. And this is not to mention what happens in the weight room and all other extra requirements of student athletes. Strictly from a practice plan perspective, this is what happens. So, warm-up time happens probably a few minutes before practice starts. Usually players will get warmed up on their own before practice starts, so that practice is ready to go. In addition to this, if guys have rehab, if they have to do J-bands, this stuff usually happens before the practice. Once practice starts, this usually will begin with a dynamic warm-up. You'll see a lot of active motions like this, a lot of karaoke, get the body warm. This will usually happen for, say, 15 minutes. The next 15 to 20 minutes will be spent playing catch. So position players, pitchers alike, will play catch, warm up. Long toss is done fairly often. So this is the first 30 minutes of practice is really just getting ready. Now, for the following 30, 45 minutes, usually there is more isolated skill work. So infielders, this could look like taking off the glove, taking ground balls, just like this, something super simple, working on the fundamentals. And this is at every position. Infielders will do this for, say, 15 minutes. Outfielders will do it for 15 minutes. First basemen at this time maybe are working on picks. So after doing some specialized individual defense, most schools like this, big programs, will also do team defense. Now, team defense is a little bit more complicated. Isolated skill work will be, infielders doing this, outfielders just getting fly balls. When we do team defense, this is when we're working on situations. So a lot of college programs have different ways of running this, but that looks like cuts and relays where a ball's hitting the gap and they have to throw the ball in and hit their relay man. So cuts and relays, bunt defenses, first and third plays. These are the type of team defense things that college programs will work on in the middle of their practice after they've already done the isolated skill work and their warm-ups. So after team defense, usually it's time to get into hitting. And while all this is happening, the pitchers are doing their own thing, right? While the infielders are doing their ground balls, sometimes the pitchers will join and do PFPs, or pitchers fielding practice. Another thing pitchers will often do at college practices is they'll do their plyometric work, they'll do J-bands and all that good stuff. So that's what's happening with the pitchers, while meanwhile defense is doing their thing. Beyond that, when we move into hitting, this is what it looks like. Hitters will step into the cage and usually there will be rotations. Now, on-field BP is very common at the highest levels. So at the college level like this and also at the professional level, you will see batting practice on the field so that hitters can see the ball flight. And this is usually done off of coach pitch, just coach throwing batting practice. And while this is happening, there's a lot going on. So at a college practice, you'll see guys taking BP on the field, and a lot of times at the same time, you got two coaches next to home plate hitting fungo ground balls to the shortstop, to the second base, to the third baseman, and to the first baseman. So infielders are getting extra ground ball work, while every other pitch, they are fielding the balls that the hitters are hitting. Beyond that, in the outfield, they're getting their reads. Sometimes pitchers will help shag during batting practice, but batting practice usually takes four groups of 8, 4 groups of 5, depending on how many guys are there that day that are hitters. And with these groups, they'll usually take 5 swings and do 4 rounds of 5 swings. So each hitter will probably get 20 swings throughout the span of this 1 hour period. And usually it's 15-minute rotations and 4 groups. This is pretty much the standard that I've seen. Obviously it changes depending on if you want to do more time BP or not. So that's the general flow of a college practice. And you might be shocked because it's not that different from what you might experience in high school or even what you might do in Little League. But that's the thing that you'll find is as you go up the levels in baseball, you do more and more of the fundamentals and more of the simple stuff. But that right there is a look into what a Division I college program practice looks like. I'm Coach RAC with Headbanger Sports, and we'll see you guys next week. Happy New Year.